Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Yud Gimel Amud Bet. We're starting at the end of the line, 26 lines down, and this is a review video of material that we covered in class. We're continuing on explaining psukim in the Megillah. So here's the next one. Bayamim hahem Mordechai yoshev b'shar hamelach katzaf bigtan bateresh. In those days, Mordechai was sitting in the king's gate, and Bigtan and Teresh got angry, and this, of course, leads them to plot to assassinate Achashverosh. But what the Gemara notices about this pasuk, one of the things the Gemara notices, is that it never says why Bigtan and Teresh got angry. It never says what upset them, just that they were so upset that they wanted to kill the king. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hiktzif HaKadosh Baruch Hu Adon al Avadav la'asot ratzon tzaddik. God got a master angry at his servants, right? Made a master get angry at his servants, same word Hiktzif, in order to fulfill the will of a righteous person. Umanu, and who is that righteous person that we're talking about? Yosef. Shnei Amar, as it says in the pasuk in Breshit, V'sham itanu nari ivri v'gomer. That there was a Jewish guy in there in prison with us. This is the description of Pharaoh's servant when he's returned to work for Pharaoh. He says, he tells his story. The cupbearer tells his story and says, this Jewish guy interpreted our dreams correctly, and that's, of course, the key to Joseph getting out of prison ultimately. So it was described in the same way that Hiktzif Pharaoh al Abadav, that Pharaoh gets angry, or Katzaf Pharaoh, Pharaoh gets angry, again with no reason stated. So the idea is it's the same thing, and there it is God actually doing something for Yosef. Avadim al Adonehem la'asot nes l'tzadik. And then God also has servants get angry, the same word katzaf, at their master in order to create a miracle for a tzaddik. So that's a reference to this episode of Bigtan and Teresh. Umanu, who is that tzaddik? Mordechai, that's Mordechai. Dichtiv, ve'vadah hadavar Mordechai v'gomer. The matter became known to Mordechai, right? The Bigtan and Teresh getting angry and plotting against Achashverosh is what ultimately leads to Mordechai's victory, because Mordechai finds out about it and he's able to tell the king and save the king's life, etc., etc. So that's all good. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Bigtan v'Teresh shnei tarsiim havu. Bigtan and Teresh were two tarsiim, were two, that was their nationality. V'hayu misaprin v'lashon torsi. And they would speak in this language of Torsi. The Omrim, and they would say, Miyom Shabbatzo lo ra'inu shena be'einenu. Since that female one came, meaning since Esther came to the palace, we haven't gotten any sleep in our eyes. Bo v'natil ares b'sefel k'dei shi'amut. Let's go and poison him, so that he'll die. They didn't get any sleep, and the Rashi's interpretation is that he was so obsessed with Esther that he was constantly having sex with her, and that made him very, very thirsty. And so the servants were kept very busy providing for his needs, and that's why they haven't gotten any sleep and why they want to kill the king. They didn't know that Mordechai was one of the people who sat in Lishkat HaGazit, which was a part of the Beit HaMikdash, the part reserved for the Sanhedrin. And therefore, since he was one of those members, he knew 70 languages, and so he actually could speak their language. And so they didn't realize that he could understand them, but he actually could. Amarlo. So whichever one proposed killing the king, the other one says back to him, "V'halo in mishmarti u'mishmartecha shaveh." But my post and your post, right, my guard duty and your guard duty are not the same, right? Meaning, how can we carry out our plan? Because I'm supposed to be in one place, you're supposed to be in another place. We're both sort of busy. Amar lo, so the first guy says back to him, "Ani eshmor mishmarti u'mishmartecha." I'll watch your place and my place, and then you'll be free to do the poisoning. B'hainu dichtiv, and that's what it said, v'yivakasha davar v'yimatzeh, that the matter was investigated and discovered. So how did they discover who had put the poison in the king's cup? Shelo nimtzu b'mishmaratan, because they weren't both in their proper post, their proper guard post, and that's how they figured out who had done the plot. Okay, moving on in the verses. Achar hadvarim ha'ela. So after these things, this is the beginning of the rise of Haman in Megillat Esther. We're going to skip the parentheses. Amar Rava, Achar shebra HaKadosh Baruch Hu refuah l'makah. The after here means after God had already prepared the remedy or the medicine for the ailment that he's about to inflict. Ze'amar Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish famously says, "Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu makeh et Yisrael, ela im ken bareh lahem refuah tchila." God does not smite Israel unless, this is ela im ken, unless he has already created for them the remedy. Shne'amar, as it says, Karafil Yisrael v'nigla von Ephraim. That God is God remedies Israel, or when God heals Israel, then the sins of Ephraim will be shown, will be revealed. So the refuah there comes before the sins are revealed. Aval umot ha'olam no ken, but when it comes to the nations of the world, it's not that way. Ma'akeh otan v'achar kach boreh lahem refuah. God first smites them and then creates the refuah, then creates the remedy. Shne'amar v'negaf Hashem et Mitzrayim nagof v'rafa. That God will smite Egypt or hit Egypt and first smite them and then heal them, right? So the remedy comes afterwards there. Again, showing that for the nations of the world, it goes in the opposite direction. And I'll put both of these psukim in yellow so you can see that they're psukim. Vayivez be'inav l'sholach yad b'Mordechai levado. That's the continuation in the Megillah when Haman gets really angry, but he it's like beneath him. He doesn't want to only kill off Mordechai. Amar Rava, so Rava says, B'tchila b'Mordechai levado, u'levasof ba'am Mordechai. So initially, he wanted the verse says Mordechai because he wanted to kill off Mordechai, but then all of Mordechai's people. That's what comes next. Am Mordechai. That's what comes next in the verse. Umanu, who is Am Mordechai? Rabbanan. They're the rabbis. So Mordechai is identified here with the rabbis. That's who he next wanted to kill off. Ulavasof b'chol hayudim. And then in the end, he wants to kill off all the Jews. He pil por hu hagoral. Right. This is how Haman selects the date. He casts this lot. He casts the por, which is a lot. Tana. It was taught in a brayta, Kevan shenafal por b'chodesh Adar, samach simcha gdola. Once the lot fell on the month of Adar, Haman got really happy. Amar, he said, nafali por b'yerach shemet bo Moshe. The lot fell on the month that Moshe died. V'lo haya yodea sheb'shiv'a ba'adar met u'b'shiv'a ba'adar nolad. He didn't know that on the 7th of Adar, Moshe died, but on the 7th of Adar, Moshe also was born. So he was thinking this was like a really auspicious month to kind of like smite the Jewish people because their great leader died in this month, but it turns out it's also a good month for the Jews because it's also the month that Moshe was born. Yeshno am echad, this is what Haman says to make his case to Achashverosh. There is this nation, literally Yeshno just means like yesh. Amar Rava, there was no one who knew how to talk trash as well as Haman. Lishna Bishna, literally Lashon Hara. Nobody was as good at it as he was. Amar le, Tanichlinu. He said to him, meaning to Achashverosh, let's get rid of him. Let's kill him off. Right, let's destroy them. Amar le, Achashverosh is back to him. Mistafina me'elokav. Right, I'm fearful of their God. That he should not do unto me as he's done to my predecessors, to those who came before me. Amar le. So Haman says back to him, Yeshnu min hamitzvot. Right, a play on words instead of yeshnu. They've slept from the mitzvot. Like they haven't really been observing, they haven't been keeping the mitzvot, so don't worry, God's not going to get you for this. Amar le, itbahu rabbanan. He says, oh no, but like they have rabbis, like they definitely do have people who are keeping the mitzvah. Amar le, Haman says back to him, Am echad hen. Right, that's the continuation of the pasuk. Yeshno am echad. Right, that's one nation. Like they're all the same, right? They're not. Don't tell me there's like a rabbinic class. Nope, they're like pretty much all the same. Shema tomar, lest you would say, Karcha ani yosef b'malchutcha. I'm going to make literally a bald spot in your nation, right? If I wipe out a people, there's going to be this like big empty space. Mefuzarin ben Hamim. Nope, they're all spread out. That's what he goes on to say. Mefuzar Mefarad ben Hamim. So they're all spread out. Shema Tomar, lest you would say Achashverosh, Itana Minahu. Right, I actually get benefit from them. They provide something for our kingdom. Mifurad, they are mifurad, which literally means spread out, but the interpretation is here is kipreza zo she'ino oseh pirot, like the bough of a tree that doesn't give any fruit. Right? They really don't give anything up. Actually, I'm seeing in Rashi that there are different translations of this word preza. The Rashi here translates it as a mule, like a mule is barren. Anyway, it doesn't. It's something that doesn't yield any fruit. V'shema tamar, unless you would say, ika medinata minahu. There is they have a medina, a province, an area. Like, you don't want to destroy. You'll like have less territory if you get rid of them. Talmud lamar bechol medinot machutecha. Right. So therefore, he says, meaning Haman says, they're in all the nations of your kingdom. Like, they're spread out. They're not in any one place. V'datehem shonot mikol am. That's the continuation of what Haman says. Their laws are different from all other nations. Tzlo achle minan. They don't eat our food. V'lo naspe minan. And they don't marry our women. V'lo menaspe lan. And they don't marry, we don't get married to them, right? There's no intermarriage. V'datehem melech einam osim. That's the continuation of what Haman says. They don't do the king's laws. Because they're always mafkes to go out. They're at every moment they're going out and saying, today's Shabbat, today's Pesach, right there. They always have some excuse why they can't do stuff for you. So they're not even like worthwhile for you to keep. That's what the continuation is, that it's not worthwhile for the king to leave them alive. Because they just eat and drink and kind of despise the kingship, right? They make light of the kingship. Even if a fly fell into the cup of one of them, he would throw it out, he would flick out the fly and drink the wine. But if my master, the king, were to touch one of their cups of wine, he would spill it out into the ground and not drink it. And this, of course, is a Yein Nesech issue. Once an idol worshiper touches a cup of wine, it's no longer essentially kosher. It becomes Yein Nesech, and a Jew can't drink or have any benefit from it. So that it isn't, in fact, sort of an accurate description of what goes on, and Haman uses this as an accusation against the Jews. Ima hamelech tov, yikatev la'abdam va'aseret alfim kikar kesef v'gomer. So the continuation, right? If the king wishes, if the king thinks it's good, let's kill him and I'll pay you off. Amar Reish Lakish, galui v'yadua lifnei misha amar v'haya ha'olam, she'atir Haman lishkol shkalim al Yisrael. God knew, basically, it's open and revealed before the one who said and the world was created, meaning God, that in the future, Haman was going to weigh out coins in order to destroy the Jews. Lefichach hikdim shkalehen l'shkalav. And therefore he preceded their shkalim to his shkalim. Right? The Jews have this shekel tradition of all the Jews having given a half shekel to the temple fund it's described in the Torah for the Mishkan, and we read that before Purim. V'hainu zitznan, and this is what we learned in the Mishnah. Be'echad ba'adar mashmi'in al hashkalim. The beginning of Adar, we read about the shkalim, ve'al hakilayim, and also about kilayim. So for this reason, we read about their shkalim before we go on to Haman shkalim. It kind of it makes that come first. So Haman shkalim has already sort of been counteracted by the schut of the Jews shkalim. V'yamar hamelech leHaman, hakesef natun lach v'ha'am asot katov beinecha. So Achashverosh gives in and is like, okay, do whatever you want. Amar Rabbi Abba, going on in the Gemara. So Rabbi Abba said, Mashal da Achashverosh v'Haman l'ma hadavar domeh. So we can make a mashal, like a parable. What can we compare Achashverosh and Haman to? Lishnei b'nei adam, to two people. La'achad haya lo tel b'toch sadehu. One had a little hill in his a little mound or hill in his field. On the other one had a, a, a pit or like a ditch in his field. Bal Charitz Amar, sorry, I'll put a period there. The owner of the ditch said, Mi tenli tel ze b'damim. Who could possibly sell me? I'd love for someone to sell me that mound, that heap. Bal Hatelamar, and the owner of the mound said, "Mi tenli charitz b'damim." I wish somebody would sell me, sell me for money that ditch. Liyamim nizdavgu ze etzel zeh. So after a while, they met up with one another. They got together. Amar lo bal hacharitz bal hatel. The one with the ditch said to the one with the mound, "Machor li tilcha. Please sell me your heap of dirt." Amar lo tol tabachinam, and he said, "Oh no, take it for free." V'halavai, and go have it in good health, right? Would that you could do it this way, right? So it's the same for the Nimshal, right? Is that the same for Haman and Achashverosh? They both really wanted to destroy the Jews. They both really wanted to kill them. So when Haman said "Oh, I'll pay you to do it," Achashverosh was like, "Oh, you don't even need to pay me. That's great. Just go ahead and do it." Although it does seem that he took the money, but he's thrilled to have the opportunity, is what the Gemara is saying. Vayasar HaMelech et tavato. The king took off his signet ring. This is a sign that he consents. Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. Dola hasarat tabad yoter me'arba'im v'shmona nevi'im v'sheva neviot shninabu lahen liYisrael. The taking off of that ring, the significance of the removal of that ring, was greater than the 48 prophets and 7 prophetesses who prophesied for Israel. Shekulan lo hachzirim l'mutav, because none of the prophets or prophetesses were ever able to get the Jews back on the derech, back on the straight and narrow. But the removal of that ring did bring them back to the right path, because immediately afterwards it's described how they all went into mourning. Right, once word gets out, they all do tshuva. It's a very effective tool for getting the Jews to repent, much more so than any nivu'ah that ever happened. Okay, we'll stop there.